哈佛中国教育论坛秉承着启迪、创新、影响的使命，已走过了10余个年头。如今，论坛已发展成为美国顶尖高校中对中国教育影响最大的公益平台。随着新冠疫情的落幕，教育行业的多元发展又到了新的十字路口。线下空间的逐渐复苏和线上技术的广泛开发，让教育充满了无限可能。
今年第14届哈佛中国教育论坛将于美东时间4月21日至23日，北京时间4月22日至24日举行。本届论坛将以多维探索、激发教育生命力为主题，开展6大分论坛和3大独家专题活动。论坛将采用线上下融合的形式，用科技连接全球，共邀海内外教育人士共同参与为期3天的峰会。
我们希望连接中美教育实践者、学者、政策制定者、企业家及各界领袖精英，促进与中国教育相关的深度讨论，探索中国教育的多维实践，共同展望中国教育的未来，共创后疫情时代教育行业全新而蓬勃的生命力。
教育是带孩子们走进世界的万花筒，生命伊始，文学带孩子探索世界的奥妙。近年来，儿童文学的价值越来越受到教育者们的重视。因为兼具成人和儿童双重读者的特点，儿童文学成为了儿童教育的绝佳媒介。
初入学府，孩子们逐渐接触到各个不同学科的魅力。STEAM 教育是新型教育的一种重要创新形式，结合科学、科技、工程、艺术及数学。STEAM 教育让学科之间得以融合，促进各学科思维和综合能力发展，为学生提供了更全面的学习体验。
非物质文化遗产这一活化石，以其古老的节奏，让初长成的少年们连接历史，着眼当下。以教育为媒，非遗的赋能与反哺，让我们在千淘万漉的历史长河中开启寻根之旅，在数字化高度发展的社会中寻求文化的自信与自我的回归。
伴随着成长，学业和生活压力不可避免地带给了孩子们心理健康方面的挑战。在心理教育本土化的过程中，虽然直接引入西方体系取得了一定的效果，但也存在众多生搬硬套、简单移植的现象。如何关注中国国民独有的心理特征，构建适合国情的创新心理教育体系，成为了迫切需要解决的问题。
新青年一代即将步入社会，成为科技时代的元年见证者。如今，以人工智能为代表的新兴技术正在加速应用到各行各业，其中新科技与艺术的结合，引发了教育行业的诸多变革。科技的不断发展为艺术教育赋能，为其带来更多可能性和前景。艺术也不断为科技提供更多灵感和创新思路，两者相辅相成，为教育创新提出了更多可能。
融合教育强调最大限度地将有特殊需求的学生置于普通教育环境，以实现教育公平。随着“14·5”特殊教育发展提升行为计划的发布，中国各个地区都开始积极推进融合教育，但这一领域仍处于发展的初期。中国社会如何最终实现特殊需求儿童的社会融合目标，成为了教育行业热议的话题。
在儿童教育、非遗教育、STEAM 教育、心理教育、创新教育、融合教育6大分论坛的基础上，本届论坛还将开展无处不在的知识库、可持续发展教育、校友分享会3大独家专题活动。
无处不在的知识库旨在发起一场有关教育的全民探索。 通过短视频征集的活动形式，我们希望透过个体的视角和镜头，看到生活中的教育故事，挖掘身边尚未获得热度但值得更多关注的教育现象和教育问题。
在全球气候变化和我国双碳目标的背景下，可持续发展教育将探讨环境保护和教育的潜在协同力。我们希望通过一系列高互动性和低门槛的活动，打开参与者对可持续发展教育的想象，探索如何通过教育赋能可持续发展。
北美顶尖教育学府也汇聚着全球最富热情的教育者们。
校友分享会将邀请到各大教育学院的优秀校友们，分享从业经验和教育行业洞见，
为参会者提供宝贵的交流机会。
教育的多维是教育对象的无限可能，
是教育方法的无限可能，
是教育学科的无限可能，
是教育场域的无限可能，
是教育政策的无限可能，
是教育影响力的无限可能。小到个体的学习与成长，大到社会的发展与变迁。
美东时间4月21日至23日，北京时间4月22日至24日，我们诚挚地邀请您加入我们，
和我们一同成为中国教育的参与者、推广者和见证者。
I'd like to invite you to attend the 14th China Education Symposium coming up on April 21st, 2023. 你好，我是哈佛大学国际事务副教务长欧立德，期待在2023年第14届中国教育论坛见到您，谢谢。
Welcome to the 14th China Education Symposium.
I want to take this opportunity to wish the China Education Symposium community, both participants and organizers, greet them and wish them the greatest success in this year's symposium.
Welcome to the 14th China Education Symposium.
Welcome to the 14th China Education Symposium at Harvard Graduate School of Education. 欢迎参加2023年第14届哈佛中国教育论坛。
多维探索，
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 多维探索，激发教育生命力，
激发教育生命力，
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 激发教育生命力。
我们在第14届哈佛中国教育论坛等你。
哈佛中国教育论坛秉承着启迪、创新、影响的使命，已走过了10余个年头。如今，论坛已发展成为美国顶尖高校中对中国教育影响最大的公益平台。随着新冠疫情的落幕，教育行业的多元发展又到了新的十字路口。线下空间的逐渐复苏和线上技术的广泛开发，让教育充满了无限可能。
今年第14届哈佛中国教育论坛将于美东时间4月21日至23日，北京时间4月22日至24日举行。本届论坛将以多维探索、激发教育生命力为主题，开展6大分论坛和3大独家专题活动。论坛将采用线上下融合的形式，用科技连接全球，共邀海内外教育人士共同参与为期3天的峰会。
我们希望连接中美教育实践者、学者、政策制定者、企业家及各界领袖精英，促进与中国教育相关的深度讨论，探索中国教育的多维实践，共同展望中国教育的未来，共创后疫情时代教育行业全新而蓬勃的生命力。
教育是带孩子们走进世界的万花筒，生命伊始，文学带孩子探索世界的奥妙。近年来，儿童文学的价值越来越受到教育者们的重视。因为兼具成人和儿童双重读者的特点，儿童文学成为了儿童教育的绝佳媒介。
初入学府，孩子们逐渐接触到各个不同学科的魅力。STEAM 教育是新型教育的一种重要创新形式，结合科学、科技、工程、艺术及数学。STEAM 教育让学科之间得以融合，促进各学科思维和综合能力发展，为学生提供了更全面的学习体验。
非物质文化遗产这一活化石，以其古老的节奏，让初长成的少年们连接历史，着眼当下，以教育为媒，非遗的赋能与反哺，让我们在千淘万漉的历史长河中开启寻根之旅，在数字化高度发展的社会中寻求文化的自信与自我的回归。
伴随着成长，学业和生活压力不可避免地带给了孩子们心理健康方面的挑战。在心理教育本土化的过程中，虽然直接引入西方体系取得了一定的效果，但也存在众多生搬硬套、简单移植的现象。如何关注中国国民独有的心理特征，构建适合国情的创新心理教育体系，成为了迫切需要解决的问题。
新青年一代即将步入社会，成为科技时代的元年见证者。如今，以人工智能为代表的新兴技术正在加速应用到各行各业，其中新科技与艺术的结合引发了教育行业的诸多变革。科技的不断发展为艺术教育赋能，为其带来更多可能性和前景。艺术也不断为科技提供更多灵感和创新思路，两者相辅相成，为教育创新提出了更多可能。
融合教育强调最大限度地将有特殊需求的学生置于普通教育环境，以实现教育公平。随着“十四五”特殊教育发展提升行为计划的发布，中国各个地区都开始积极推进融合教育，但这一领域仍处于发展的初期。中国社会如何最终实现特殊需求儿童的社会融合目标，成为了教育行业热议的话题。
在儿童教育、非遗教育、STEAM 教育、心理教育、创新教育、融合教育6大分论坛的基础上，本届论坛，
各位观众朋友们，早上好，晚上好。
Dear audience, good morning and good evening. Thank you for following the 14th Harvard China Education Forum. I am Elva. I'd like to thank the support from our strategic partner, Wukong Education. We have completed the innovative education and STEAM education panels. Today, we will talk about ICH education and inclusive education. Intangible cultural heritage is diversified and traditional. It exhibits cultural communication and inheritance that puts people at the center. Now let's give the floor to the co-directors of the ICH education panel, and they will talk about multidimensional cultural communication.
大家好，欢迎大家来
Hello
到
everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Harvard China Education Symposium, Intangible Cultural Heritage, ICH Education Panel. I am the co-director Xu Yujun. I did my PhD program in Edinburgh, and now I am doing my postdoc in Peck University. I am the co-director Qian Jiaying, the 13th generation Wuqing inheritor of the Guangling School. I am the president of Berkeley China Music Industrial Association, and I am also the PR president of this symposium.
本届论坛还邀请到
We have also invited a professional advisor from Communication University of China
大学文理学院访问学者杨红老
and the
师。
visiting scholar at Harvard University, Professor Yang Hong. She will join us in the roundtable discussion. It is our great pleasure to meet you here. 8 a.m. in Beijing and 8 p.m. in the US. Welcome.
非遗教育在世界和国家层面
Internationally and nationally, ICH education has become a major trend in the field of education. Today, we are honored to invite 6 guest speakers who are very experienced in ICH education. They will share with us the present and future of ICH education. After their presentations, we will start a roundtable discussion. The guest speakers will talk about ICH education practice and theoretical study in terms of 昆曲 opera, 古琴, Tai Chi, and museum education. We hope that we can promote ICH education, encourage the exploration and innovation of formal and informal education, facilitate cross-disciplinary cooperation, lead the development in relevant research, and inspire critical thinking. Now we will introduce the guest of today. Associate Professor at the School of Arts at Peck University, Dr. Chen Jun. Inheritor of the intangible cultural heritage 古琴 of the Guangling School, Miss Fan Jijian. Associate Professor at the Department of Physical Education at Peck University, Miss Wang Dongmin. Director of the Department of Social Service at China Intangible Cultural Heritage Museum, Miss Li Yan. Associate Professor at School of Broadcasting and Anchoring at Communication University of China, Ms. Zhao Ruozhu. And Professor Gao Bingzhong from Advanced Institute of Humanities and Social Sciences at Beijing Normal University. Let's first give the floor to Mr. Chen Jun, who will lead us into the colorful world of Kunqu opera.
各位好，这是我们今天谈的这个主题是非遗昆曲与非遗教育。
So today we talk about ICH Kunqu and ICH education. I'd like to first talk about the changes of the concept of Kunqu. It has changed from court art to classical art to ICH art. Kunqu has nearly 500 years of history. In the reign of the Wanli Emperor, Kunqu entered the court, and later it became classical art. In the 20th century, Kunqu went through ups and downs, and for some time it was nearly at the verge of extinction. In 2013, Kunqu was included in UNESCO World Intangible Cultural Heritage, and later the institutionalization of ICH in China started. The situation of Kunqu greatly improved and started to develop rapidly. The change of concept means that the position of Kunqu opera has changed in China's society. The concept of ICH has impacted people's opinion of Kunqu opera, because at first we wanted to preserve Kunqu, which was at the verge of extinction. When it became ICH, okay, this is the second point, the impact of ICH on people's opinion towards Kunqu. After ICH included Kunqu opera, after Kunqu opera became an ICH, we have more sense of crisis. So we took some measures to preserve Kunqu opera, and there are some national policies. Previously, the state encouraged innovation in Kunqu opera after it became ICH. Now we prioritize preservation and inheritance. Meanwhile, Mr. Bai Xianyong produced the youth version of the Peony Pavilion, which promotes originality and playing the whole script. These concepts are integrated into new cultural concepts, and they become the mainstream in the area of Kunqu opera. With the establishment of the national ICH system, including establishing eco-environments and the system of inheritors, they have substantial impact on Kunqu opera. Kunqu is still distributed in different areas of China. The establishment of eco-preservation zone has impact on its distributive pattern. It can be inherited through different channels, including theaters and the society. These have all raised new questions for the system of inheritors. Third, the innovation of Kunchi Opera education on campus. The education of Kunchi on campus started in 1917 when the president of Peck University started this career. Its campus education is different from theater inheritance. It is more professional and it focuses on theoretical studies. It has also attracted many people who are interested in this area, and the students have established clubs and societies of Kunchi opera. Later, in Peck University, the Kunchi Inheritance Plan was initiated, and the course Classical Kunchi Appreciation was established. It has started a new paradigm for campus inheritance. Through the demonstration and the speech of famous Kunchi artists, students can perceive the beauty of Kunchi opera. So this is the classroom. We invite artists of the Kunchi opera so that students can interact with them. We also hold Kunchi workshops outside the classrooms, and in the coursework, we encourage students to combine Kunchi opera with their own innovation. They could adopt various forms, for example, short videos and the thesis. They can choose different models to complete their coursework. The course has been ongoing in Peck University for 13 years, and it is widely welcomed by the students. Now let's enjoy a small video.
昆曲作为中国最古老的剧种之一，被称作戏曲百花园中一朵兰花。2001年，昆曲被联合国教科文组织列为人类口头与非物质遗产代表作。2018年，教育部中华优秀传统文化昆曲传承基地也在北京大学风清水丽的未名湖畔应运而生，为昆曲注入新的传承力量。访600年古寺，赏600年昆曲。法海寺，一方鲜为人知的赤焦古刹，却以斑斓壁画可堪媲美敦煌。参参松柏，50余甲子轮回，愈加枝繁叶茂，映护古寺洞天。由昆曲基地联合摄制的纪录片《视野中国昆曲》第3期落足此地，以承载同样历史厚度的昆曲，唱响传统文化之悠悠古音，与法海寺绕梁同歌，精神齐鸣。如果说昆曲如古寺，以不同之衣钵绵延传统文化之精魂，那么一代代莘莘学子，正如一棵棵参参松柏，是传统文化的守护者和继承人。昆曲基地正是培养栋梁的护林人。被北大学生冠以神仙课程的经典昆曲欣赏，一座难求，场场爆满，是昆曲基地教学的重头戏。这门课没有固定的讲师，而是邀请天南海北的艺术大家亲临现场，化课堂为舞台。台上仙子云手翻转，水幕盈盈；台下学生顾盼流连，如痴如醉。白先勇、叶朗、蔡正仁，每位嘉宾都让人遇之有幸，见之难忘。然而，这门课程真正的主角不是闪耀在舞台上的明星大家，而是乐在其中的学生。经典昆曲欣赏没有考试，不用论文，学生们可以发挥天马行空的想象， 各用所长，展现自己心中昆曲的魅力。于是，泥人、连环画、杜丽娘机器人等五花八门的创意作业，足以举办一场盛大的昆曲文创展。为回馈大家的热情参与，昆曲基地经常为同学们发放演出票。校园传承版和高校版昆曲《牡丹亭》是其中备受热捧的剧目，向来座无虚席。2017年，由昆曲基地牵头策划的校园传承版《牡丹亭》，至今已在两岸三地巡演15场，并作为唯一的高校昆曲剧目入选第7届中国昆剧节展演剧目。在此基础上，2021年为纪念昆曲入选联合国教科文组织人类口头与非物质遗产代表作名录20周年，昆曲基地再创新作，高校版昆曲《牡丹亭》像一股新鲜溪流涌入并绵延着昆曲不息的生命长河。问渠哪得清如许，唯有源头活水来。北京大学昆曲传承基地不断创新，以更加新颖多样的形式吸引年轻学子加入昆曲的研究和创作中来。而青春正在历史长河的千淘万漉中开启寻根之旅，汲取精神力量，把灵魂洗练得愈发坚强明朗。
刚才这个小视频呢，就是展示了我们在
small video
比如通选课程、经典昆曲欣赏
demonstrates the courses in Peck University on 昆曲 opera.
校园传承版《牡丹亭》和高校版《牡丹亭》都是我们集合了就是北京地区以及全国
The campus version and youth version of the Peony Pavilion
来做的这个
featured
剧目。
昆曲 lovers from universities all over the country.
它是把昆曲艺术和学生，就是置于一个共振场里。
In our classrooms, we hope that 昆曲 opera and the students can stay in the same space and realize the inheritance of 昆曲 opera.
台湾大学以及香港中文大学都曾经制定。
Universities in mainland China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan have all made up plans for the inheritance of 昆曲 opera. We hope we can create a network of 昆曲 inheritance in higher institutes. We also mentioned that the 昆曲 Inheritance Foundation in 2018. We established 136 ICH Inheritance Foundations, and Peck University is the foundation for 昆曲 inheritance. It has facilitated the communication and inheritance of 昆曲 in the community.
我们刚才也提到了这个校园版的昆曲，就是校园版昆曲，这些就是也被认为是将观众跨界成为演员，就是高校。
We have also led the audience to become players and actors. The students in universities are not only receivers, they can actively act on the stage and spread the culture. What are the features of 昆曲 education? It can be presented and it is a living culture. On the one hand, it shows the beauty of 昆曲, attracts students to accept 昆曲 opera, both inside and out of the classroom, and it is combined with the cultural life on campus. Students are not professional inheritors, but by combining 昆曲 opera with their own professions and interests, it can create a broader network of 昆曲 and explore new approaches for 昆曲 inheritance. This is different from the approach of apprenticeship. So what has 昆曲 education provided for ICH education in terms of inspirations and insights? 昆曲 opera is among the earliest to start ICH education, And I believe it does bring some insights. For example, it combines the experience and exhibition of the technique, and it connects ICH with inspirations and innovations. A while ago, we conducted a research in higher institutes for country opera and ICH education. 106 higher institutes participated, so we could see that ICH education is quite prevalent in Chinese higher institutes.
好的，非常感谢陈军老师为我们揭秘非遗
Thank
昆
you
曲
for Professor Chen Jun to talk about the exploration and possibilities of country opera in and outside of the classroom. Now let's give the floor to Ms. Fan Jixian. She will talk about public education and inheritance of 古琴.
大家好，
Hello everyone.
我跟大家分享的是古琴在民间的话语与传承。
I will talk about public education and inheritance of 古琴.
古琴又称瑶琴、玉琴、七弦琴。
古琴 is also called 瑶琴, 玉琴, or seven-string zither. It is traditional Chinese string instrument. It has more than 3,000 years of history.
音色
It
深沉，
has
语音悠远。
very broad range, deep timbre, and profound resonance. This is what 古琴 looks like.
那么从古代流传
The
至今的
style of 伏羲 and 仲尼 are the most common, and there are nearly 50 different forms.
琴者乐之童也，一部古琴史是中国音乐发展史的
Qin is the first of music. The history of 古琴 is an epitome of Chinese music development.
齐家平天下的含义，被视为是一
古琴 has been endowed with self-improvement, state governments, bringing peace to the world. It is considered as the first of the four arts and the first of the eight sounds. This is the best and worst time for 古琴 development. In 2003, 古琴 was inscribed on the representative list of the oral and ICH of humanity. In 2008, on the opening of the 2008 Olympics, the whole world heard the sound of 古琴 in China. This year, on the 7th of April, President Xi Jinping welcomed the French President Macron in Canton, and
弹奏了高山流水。
the music of lofty mountains and flowing water was played by 古琴.
这张琴呢，叫九霄环佩。
This 古琴 is called a jade pendant of highest heaven. It has history of 1,267 years. It was made in 756 AD. That was also the year the country France was born. Now, 古琴 is on this way of revival.
古琴呢，作为一种乐器呢，它的
As an instrument, 古琴 is easy to get started, but it's very hard to achieve proficiency, and we don't have sufficient resources or materials.
古琴现在面临的机遇，第一是国家政策。
古琴 has many opportunities. It now has support from national policies. For ICH, China has proposed that we should give priority to timely rescue and preservation and pursue sound utilization, inheritance, and development. It has led to many results in terms of preservation and development. We are also faced with diversified opportunities because multiple channels for communication. The internet has brought new opportunities for 古琴 inheritance.
提供了途径。
People who are interested can communicate online, and 古琴 is more accessible for the general public.
发展前景的展望，利用专家
Now let's look at the prospect. We can
琴派间的联系，建立
have the experts and scholars expand the communication approaches, enhance the communication between different schools, and preserve the instruments and notations of 古琴. In terms of inheritance, I believe that it is our mandate to publicize and inherit 古琴. It is not only about popularization, it is also about public education. Guqin used to be exclusive for noblemen, but now it is accessible for ordinary people. In terms of its inheritance, first, it is about the communication of cultural philosophy. We should choose a proper media for education, and it should be spread in different circles. The artists themselves should set a good example. Now let's talk about the main channel for public communication of Guqin. First, it's communicated from refined gathering. Refined gathering of Yaqin has a long history. It is the communication platform for literati and scholars. It is of different scales and different types. Now it is regularly held by different Guqin societies and clubs, and it has extensive participation. Refined gatherings in the past used to be niche, but now, by innovation and integration, the art of Guqin is combined with the art of tea, incense burning, flower, and hanfu clothing. It has now become part of our daily life. The second channel is public welfare communication through lectures, performances, and trainings. I am now based in Yangzhou. Yangzhou is a base for Yangzhou development and also the origin of the Guangling School. There are many Guqin activities, including public welfare discussions, lectures, and the training sessions. Yangzhou accounts for a large proportion of such activities because there are hundreds of Guqin production and manufacturing plants. Various lectures and performances are held in Yangzhou. And the concert hall of Yangzhou is open to the public once every month to present Guqin performance. People in Yangzhou have stronger awareness of Guqin. The subject of public welfare communication is first adults. There are many Guqin clubs in Yangzhou. You can even find one around every corner of some streets. Decades ago, it was quite difficult to find a Guqin. But now, as long as you want to get to know Guqin better, it is readily available. There are many public welfare trainings for adults and for young children. There are also many Guqin clubs developing and innovating new approaches to educate children about Guqin. For example, it is combined with three-character classic and ancient teaching of Dizi Gui to popularize some simple fingering. Reading classics can be combined with Guqin, and children can start to learn it from a very young age. These are pictures of refined gatherings for adults, some regular and some irregular. I believe that refined gathering for Guqin is very prevalent in Yangzhou. These are photos taken in classrooms when Guqin was taught to young children as public welfare activities. There are also many clubs and societies for Guqin, and children are very enthusiastic. We used to only have 12 positions, but in grade 4, 28 children signed up for the course, so we have to let 2 children sit on one desk. As for public welfare communication, these are all channels that we can use, including multimedia, WeMedia, big data, and cross-media communication. Public education and inheritance of 古琴 in public require efforts from everyone, including adults and children, and also many manufacturers in Yangzhou. Some are dedicated in developing 古琴 for children. People are making different efforts in public to inherit 古琴. I believe that this is where the truth lies, and nothing can stop us from pressing ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fan Jijian, for talking about public education and inheritance of 古琴. Now let's give the floor to Ms. Wang Dongmin. She will talk about the inheritance of Tai Chi. Hello, thank you. Now I will talk about how Tai Chi education is conducted in Peking University. Tai Chi is a treasure for Chinese traditional culture, and it is our unique cultural symbol. Its highest value pursuit is harmony. So promoting Tai Chi culture is important for inheriting Chinese culture and improving people's physical and mental health. And we have long tradition of Tai Chi education in Peking University. President Tsai Yuanpei also mentioned that Tai Chi is the national treasure that should be well inherited for everyone. It has high values for fitness. The first martial arts club and the first martial arts institution were both established in Peking University. Tai Chi is a required public course for undergraduates. It has more than 30 years of history. In one semester, they will spend 32 hours learning Tai Chi, and every year there are more than 3,000 students. Tai Chi has fitness values and values for learning techniques. It has also cultural values of harmony. So what are the things we do in the classes, and how do we realize the values? I will show you a short video.
好像播放不了。这是我们北大的学生，在习拳。它是中华民族文化的瑰宝，它动作当中的动静、虚实都很好的体现了。这是在北大校园里面思想和文化底蕴。上课。弓步分号。
我想通过年轻人更容易接受的方式，把他们吸引进来，让他们有兴趣去了解这个项目，去感受其中的魅力。
通过太极拳，我更热爱我们的
3代人在北大一起习拳，有一个非常好的传承。
中走正，学脉中创新。
太极拳也是落实健康校园、体育先行、育人理念的一个重要抓手。
让中国的学生能去领略、去学习传统文化的精髓。
好，那么也就是希望通过太极拳的学习课上的技术。
I hope that by practicing Tai Chi and learning about its culture, university students can become inheritors for traditional culture. However, we are also faced with some challenges. It is a required course, but we don't have enough time. And during our classes, the content is monotonous and evaluation is only about skills. People don't have enough understanding of the movements Some of them know what it is, but they do not know how. So some students like Tai Chi, but they don't like Tai Chi classes. We established a teaching team for Tai Chi, aiming at tackling the challenges. We have Tai Chi teachers and also teachers from other backgrounds, including philosophy and the traditional Chinese medicine. We would also invite some Tai Chi inheritors to join us in our teaching. To deal with the problems I've mentioned, the team proposed the concept of Tai Chi Health Project and put it into practice. It is an important drive in the construction of a healthy campus, and it is acknowledged by the International College Student PE Association Healthy Campus. It has become the first higher institute in Asia to get the accreditation. We not only learn about the routines, we also talk about the method and pushing hands. We have also added the Tai Chi exercise prescription to our class. Over the years, we have also done some curriculum design and innovation. We believe that students and teachers can teach each other. Teachers can teach students the routines and the moves, but students can bring new perspectives to the classroom. And they can raise more questions about health. In 2021, we have established an ecosystem, including teaching, learning, practicing, competition, research, and application. This is a 6-in-1 education system. In terms of our objective, we hope that our students can be physically and mentally healthy, and they can inherit and spread the Chinese culture. We encourage our students to practice strength and techniques so that they can have a deeper understanding of the charm of Tai Chi. Let's look at another video.
虚灵顶进，大家可能还很少看到头上还顶着一本书。为什么要去太极拳、举太极球呢？这都是一些传统的训练方法。这是它的这个攻防的含义的使用。这是注重他们记忆力练习的一些方法。通过怎么去体会身体立身中正、不偏不倚呢？就是这些的辅助教学方法，来提高他们的太极拳技术。我们也会把太极拳运动处方引入到课堂，进行这个提升同学们的这个体质健康水平。好，下一页。那么在这个我前面提到一个词叫课程生态系统。
I have mentioned the concept of the ecosystem. We have a second classroom of Tai Chi clubs and societies, and a third classroom of mini classes and MOOC of Tai Chi. We have established a comprehensive ecosystem so that students can learn, can practice, and communicate. In our teaching system, we have also systems for teaching, learning, practicing, competition, research, and application. Students can understand the Tai Chi from different perspectives. We have also included the Tai Chi exercise prescription in the first, second, and third classrooms. The ultimate goal is application. We hope that they can use the prescription and the philosophy of Tai Chi in their life. This is the feature of Tai Chi education in Peck University. How are students evaluated? It is based on the Tai Chi exercise prescription. The understanding of Tai Chi is evaluated through group report or communication competition. At the start and end of the semester, a fitness evaluation will be provided to every student so that they know how Tai Chi exercise can improve their physical and mental health. So what are the features of our curriculum? I prefer to combine technique with culture and also the philosophies in the culture. For example, the fist and palm salute help develop virtue. We believe that it represents for both martial arts and art. The gesture has connotations of benevolence and modesty. By practicing, they can know deep down that we shouldn't use force randomly, and we need to respect our teacher and our peers. We hope that we can shape their modesty and carry forward the traditional virtues of the Chinese nation. Skills are very important, but there are also many theories and philosophies involved. By learning the skills, students can understand the theories and get enlightened with philosophies. We use different approaches to lead the students into this area. For example, for basic solo practice, we will guide the students to pay more attention to the essence of Tai Chi. For example, how can I control my body through the practice? And during my practice, how can I reach the unity of my body and mind? How can I control myself and keep my body upright? This is the charm of Tai Chi. And this is also the process where we understand the principle of being a human being. We also combine research with application to shape a healthy lifestyle. Of course, Tai Chi has fitness values, but how do we present it? I have mentioned that we do fitness evaluation at the start and end of the semester. On this basis, we also cooperate with our school hospital innovation lab and mental health consultation center. On the first and second classrooms, we implement the exercise prescription. At the end of the semester, we would evaluate the fitness status of the students again so that students can understand how their body has changed. Students all have improved their health, and through the practice, they have developed a healthy lifestyle. The exercise prescription is also developed by teachers and students together. So why do we practice pushing hands? Because by this practice, you can understand if your pose is correct. And you can also understand the theories of letting go of your plan and responding to your opponents or join your opponent to land on nothing. It can gradually evolve into a cultural mindset of modesty and inclusiveness. So when practicing, please make sure that you practice pushing hands. Tai Chi is not only about skills and technique. Across its history of development in innovation and inheritance, there are many stories. For example, some astronauts would practice Tai Chi in the space. That shows a scientific spirit and a cultural confidence. During the pandemic, Zhong Nanshan also talked about how Tai Chi is combined with scientific spirits. Through a series of studies, it is proved that Tai Chi is beneficial for our health. We also host a communicative competition for Tai Chi. We teach students to win under the rules and how to lose with dignity. During the process of organization and planning, students cooperate with each other. And eventually, we'd like to develop their benevolent qualities. In terms of the effect of our courses, this is a process of Tai Chi innovation and inheritance, but what is the effect for students? We have improved students' physical and mental health. The students stay still for less time. They are engaged in physical exercises for longer, and they have improved their mental status. Second, it enhances our national cultural confidence. The courses involve more than 20 ethnic groups and 20 countries. It has reached 30,000 people. The photo on the right-hand side is very interesting. This is one of our graduates, and they are still communicating about Tai Chi with foreigners, and some have involved Tai Chi in their own studies. For example, how Tai Chi helps with the recovery of hypertension. And some of the studies have also gone global. Now we have mini classes and MOOC for Tai Chi. These approaches help us better inherit and develop Tai Chi. It has been acknowledged by higher institutes across the country, and some universities have started to copy the model we have used, especially the 6-in-1 education system and the health management model of exercise prescription. It has led the way for higher institutes in China and provided a very precious practical experience. Thank you all. That is all for my presentation.
非常感谢王东明老师为我们分享他关于
Thank you, Ms. Wang Dongming, for sharing with us her practice, exploration, and thinking about Tai Chi education. Now let's give the floor to Ms. Li Yan and Zhao Ruozhu to talk about ICH education in museums. First, Ms. Li Yan will talk about teenage education in museums. Hello, everyone. I am Li Yan from China Arts and Crafts Gallery and China ICH Museum. I will talk about teenager ICH education in museums. I will first talk about the museum. Last year, the museum was officially opened to the public. It is located on the northern extension of the Beijing Central Axis. It is very close to the Technological Museum and the Bird Nest. The museum was constructed during the 13th Five-Year Plan, and it is a national-level key cultural facility. During the 13th Five-Year Plan, we have proposed that we will build 20 cultural facilities, and our museum was the first. The function include exhibition, collection, academic studies, and a venue for social education activity. The total area is over 90,000 square meters. There are 6 floors above ground and 2 floors underground. There are different functions on various floors. For example, on the first floor, there is an interactive exhibition hall and a functions hall. On the second floor, there are banquet hall and the VIP area. On the fourth floor, there are special exhibition halls and the youth activity center. On the fifth floor, there are permanent exhibition areas for arts and crafts. And on the sixth floor, there are permanent exhibition areas for ICH. For museum education, I believe it's quite different from education in schools, and they are complementary. There are 4 basic features. First, it is immersive. Through thorough planning and design of the exhibition, it can create an immersive space for visitors. Second, it is based on physical objects. For ICH exhibition and the other exhibitions, physical exhibits will be presented. And third, it is experiential. There are experiential activities so that the visitors can feel what it's like. And lastly, it is also interactive. High-end technologies such as VR and AR are adopted to interact with the visitors, and they can fully experience the space. I believe that teenager education in museums can enable the students to come into the space and have the first-hand experience. It can create a strong emotional feeling and foster their aesthetic values. They will experience and create beauty and have a stronger sense of belonging and recognition for Chinese traditional culture. Intangible cultural heritage has several core features. First, it is intangible by nature. It involves a wide range of content. It has a very long history. It shows regionality and ethnicity. For crafts and performance arts, they all involve core techniques, core values, and it involves living inheritance. In terms of ICH education, as we have just mentioned, ICH is by nature intangible, but we have to use something tangible to conduct education, and we can see the intangible in the tangible, and we can see eternity in its dynamic evolution. I'll give you a very simple example. For example, Guqin, which was already demonstrated by a previous speaker. We have conducted a Guqin exhibition. Some people might misunderstand Guqin as ICH, but actually it is the art of Guqin that is ICH. It includes the history, the technique, the notation, and the artists, and also the spirituality involved in Guqin. It involves rich content.
那接着我再谈这个我们管的这个青少年教育。青少年特点，我们要针对他们的。
If we talk about teenager education, we should of course think about their features. They are restless, they are curious, their aesthetic values, personal characters, and beliefs are malleable. Based on their characters, I believe that ICH education for teenagers should be fun. It should inspire teenagers to trace the origin and think about why they do things in a certain way. It should also be interactive and subtle.
那针对这个青少年的这个教育特点以及非遗的特点
Based on the features of teenagers and intangible cultural heritage, we have built a few brands for education. For example, Junior Craftsman, ICH Inheritance in Action, Little Narrator. We encourage teenagers to make, to tell, to see, to feel, and to learn. For example, there are projects like learning ICH from textbooks and theaters in the classroom. Through these brands, we hope that children can see, make, tell, feel, and learn in the museums. Junior Craftsman is mainly for traditional craftsmanship and techniques. We hope that the best craftsmen can help children to learn and they can feel the fun of creation and beauty of life. As for telling, there are two projects, ICH Inheritance in Action and Little Narrator. We hope that children can tell the story of ICH themselves. As for Encountering ICH, this is for teenagers to see, and this is mostly for performing arts. The inheritors and experts would demonstrate, and we will put some ICH performance on show. There will also be some interactive activities. For feeling, we have another project, Village Aesthetic Action. This is mainly conducted by broadcasting. Because of the consideration of space and distance, we reach the countryside by live streaming and open a window for them to feel ICH. Another project is theater in a classroom. Some ICH are mentioned in textbooks of history or Chinese, so we hope that children could step out of their school and enter the space of the museum and learn about ICH on site. I will talk about the project of Junior Craftsman Project. This is for traditional craftsmanship. Richard Sonnett, the author of The Craftsman, said that craftsmanship doesn't disappear with the industrial society. It is a lasting and fundamental human impulse. We could feel that children are very passionate in building things by their hands. Although we are using digital technology and many children like electronic device, we should also help children to experience things with their hands. We talk about the unity of hands and minds in traditional Chinese culture, and the process of using your hands is also the process of using your mind. We conducted 13 sessions of Junior Craftsman Project. Every time we would invite the inheritors to teach all the teenagers, and they are the best craftsmen in China. They also have profound understanding of the value and the skill of the ICH. And they would teach all the children one by one. This is a very valuable project for teenagers. Because the process of making things by hand can help the teenagers develop their aesthetic values and different skills. Last year, we conducted 13 sessions of this project. For performing arts, we have set up a space for performance. This brand is called Encountering ICH. We have expanded ICH exhibition from the exhibition halls to the stage. We use various methods to present the living ICH and find the points that can be combined with the current values. Parents and children in the cities are very interested in performing arts. During Lantern Festival this year, we had 12 performances on show, and for each of them, there were many visitors. This is the project of ICH Inheritance in Action and Little Narrators. Teenagers can tell the stories about ICH themselves. And only when they're able to tell the stories will they be able to truly understand ICH.
下一页。那结合刚才我提到的课里有戏，就是走出课本。
This is the project of theater in the classroom. We start from the textbooks and combine education with our exhibitions. Teenagers can enjoy the exhibitions, and we will also invite scholars and inheritors to demonstrate for the students, and the teenagers can even perform in the functions hall. It has formed a complementary interaction with school education.
刚才我提到的这个就是另外一个品牌叫乡村美育行动。
Another brand is Village Aesthetic Actions. Through live streaming, we can reach the countryside, and children in the villages can have access to ICH. We conducted several sessions of activities during the pandemic, and they have achieved great results. The children were all very excited, and they hoped that they could come to the museum and feel the exhibition themselves.
那么，我们推出一系列的这样的这个教育品牌，那它的影响力
The education brand has very wide presence. For example, we conducted 13 sessions of junior craftsmen. It has involved 400,000 audience, and the Encountering ICH program reached 4,000 people offline. We have trained 102 little narrators, and 650 teenagers participated in the program of theaters in the classroom. Last year, we invited teenagers from mainland China and Hong Kong to communicate on the platform of ICH, and 500 people participated. We hope that the project can not only get acknowledgement from parents and students, we also want to evaluate our projects in a scientific way so that we can have further improvements. We adopted the GLOS model for performance evaluation. We include knowledge and understanding, skills, attitudes and values, enjoyment, inspiration and creativity, behavior and progression. We conduct the scientific survey to get a real understanding of how students feel after their study and what they have actually learned. This is the questionnaire we have designed based on GLOS model. In 5 aspects, we would collect all the questionnaires and study the results.
那么这个模型呢，实际上注重了解孩子参与非。
The model focuses on the actual feelings and the feedbacks from students after they participate in SCH activities. Their attitudes have changed from awareness to acknowledgement, and there are several indicators for evaluation. That is all for my presentation. Now let's give the floor to Ms. Zhao Ruozhu from Communication University of China. He will talk about higher institutes and museum integration. Hello, everyone. I am a teacher from Communication University of China. I have many years of anchoring education. I have also been involved in some cultural creative activities. It seems that my major is not directly linked to ICH, but for education and media artwork creation, I have a deep feeling that culture is very important and indispensable in this process. Yesterday, in the Innovative Education panel, it was stressed that culture, art, and technology should be combined, and it is the education philosophy of Communication University of China. So today I'd like to talk about the integrated communication of higher institutes and museums. First, the integration of higher institutes and museums is widely acknowledged in higher education, and it is also widely practiced. There are three major reasons. First, there are rich natural resources in museums. It can help with the construction of higher education institutions. They can be consistent in terms of content. And second, the comprehensive education function of universities can also help with the promotion of museum culture. Third, now this is the omnimedia communication era, and all industries are faced with the transition of Media Plus. The cooperation has expanded our own areas for practice and help with communication and promotion of ICH and museums. Our university have cooperated with museums to explore the integration of education and ICH museums. I will share with you several cases. First, professional courses and ICH elements. The first area we cooperated with museums is the professional courses. In this semester, we have cooperated with the ICH Museum in terms of the broadcasting courses. For the first few weeks, we will provide some training for some professional elements and skills. In week 7, we will set up a target. We want students to have comprehensive abilities and complete a single project. We choose the exhibition of paintings along the Silk Road, and we require the students to complete a vlog or short video. And eventually, we require every student to present an art piece. And eventually, the courseworks of students are included in one video. And I'd like to share with you a small video, and it lasts about 1 minute.
今天我们跟老师来到了中国非物质文化遗产馆，
要带大家一起沉浸式体验丝路丹青。质朴粗糙的线条，风霜侵蚀后的残破质感，都让我们身临其境地感受到了文化的美。
而这幅壁画上的青金石原料是产自于阿富汗地区所以说你想想，在几千年前，在咱新疆，在西域也能够看到这样精美的壁画，是不是多亏了有丝绸之路啊？
这可见，在当时的吐鲁番地区呢，已经是一个多民族共同生活，而且民族文化交流非常丰富的地区。
仿佛已经穿越回了唐代，看到了唐朝的繁荣与昌盛、兼收与并蓄。
以古见今，从这条丝绸之路上出发，我们期待在未来遇见更加美好、和谐、开放、多样的文明世界。
丝路丹青壁画是数千年前我国西域人民文化生活的一个缩影，古代丝绸之路也是我国“一带一路”战略提出的历史依托。今天，青年人来到博物馆，回望历史，凝视画作，正是古今文明的碰撞与对话。
好的，通过这一次实践教学呀，可以说同学们
Through this practice, students are involved in real scenarios, and they have demonstrated strong focus and a cooperative spirit in their coursework. This is exactly what we hoped. The students have truly felt how historical culture is connected to the present and themselves. And it's fair to say that we have very ideal effects, and it has been widely welcomed by the society. Other courses in our school are also considering cooperating with museums. The second case is to improve cultural education practice based on research projects. I am in Beijing, the cultural and political center of China. There are more than 20 national level museums. In order to make full use of our resources to serve teaching, last year, our teaching team was granted with social science funds. And during the application of this project, we conducted field surveys for more than 10 museums, and we want to study the path and channels for integrated education between higher institutes and museums. We have reached agreements for cooperation with many museums, and we have also built a database for teaching cases so that we can use it in the future. These platforms have helped with education and museum promotion, and these can all develop in sync. The third case is different thematic activities in museums. The ICH inheritance in action can be combined with our education system. We have required volunteers from postgraduates to train the teenagers. Postgraduates have joined the group of ICH inheritors. They have helped the junior narrators, and they can also learn things themselves. In the practice, I have profoundly felt the meaning of the integration between higher institutes and museums. I have 3 key points. First, education can help with the inheritance of ICH because higher institutes are the main field for ICH inheritance. Universities have an established platform and education system. They can foster more talents for ICH inheritance, and they can expand the presence of ICH. Through generational education development, we can realize the long-term focus on ICH and realize better effect for ICH communication. Second, ICH can deepen the value of education. It can improve students' cognitive abilities, and it can combine the cultural features and professional features of different disciplines. ICH value is not only about arts and humanities. It can help with the construction with many majors. For young people and especially college students, we should all have the fundamental liberal qualities and cognitive abilities. Third, higher institutes and museums can activate each other. If we only spread history through verbal description, it is very abstract. Museum can shorten the distance in time and space. In the museums, students can expand the space, and they can feel history through different senses, and they can even tell the story of history themselves. It can bring students and history closer. I have also concluded some methods for the cooperation between higher institutes and museums. First, establish an education platform between higher institutes and museums to serve the development of college students. Second, we can establish a circulation system. We can change from one-way communication to multidimensional guidance. And third, we can realize the education effect from cold to warmth. If we simply put the knowledge in the museum, it is cold, and we need to find different approaches to transform them into hot knowledge that college students can actively learn. Eventually, I believe that in the future, we should combine theoretical studies with practices. We should combine different subjects of education, and we should make more efforts in nurturing common values in young people. That is all for my presentation. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Li Yan and Zhao Rouzhu, for talking about museum ICH education for teenagers and higher institutes. Now let's give the floor to Professor Gao Bingzhong. He will talk about the types and objectives of ICH education practices. Hello, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to join you in the ICH education panel of China Education Forum. And I'd like to thank Professor Yang Hong and Dr. Xu Yuzhen for their invitation. Due to time constraints, I might have to only talk about some key points, and I might not be able to expand. I hope that we have other opportunities for communication. I'd like to talk about two facts, ICH and education. These two concepts represent different types in society. In China, school education can be considered as a tradition. In ancient times, people studied only to participate in the court exam. Some studied in private schools and some in public schools, but they were only for elites. Education in the past was not related to agricultural activities in the society. It doesn't serve people's actual lives. So the development of science in China is separated in terms of education and people's real lives. The system of court exams impact the things people learn. For modern education and the modern society, we have a special department for education, and I believe it should be closely connected to life, and it should also serve people's lives. The two parts should be consistent, but in China, we have taken another path. After we introduced the principles of Dewey, it has brought about heated debates. There has been discussions about knowledge and practices. In the 1970s, when I was in primary school, schools in China also taught agricultural and industrial knowledge. There were some attempts to connect education with people's lives. Of course, when we were little, the agricultural and industrial education was quite extreme. And it was not in line with the requirement of China's education system and our philosophies for family life. In summary, in China, because of different ideological issues and the division of labor, professional education is not related to people's lives.
非遗教育，它两个合在一起，这个并轨哈，是一个新事物。
The combination of ICH and education is something new, and it is something that we have earned with much effort.
这些行业的这个从业者跟从事教育的这个大行业哈，就是他们都做了一个就是对的。
ICH practitioners and educators have made a choice that meet the need of the future. ICH education started when Chinese education went through a major revolution.
最多提一下，说用点才艺啊，学点这个艺术啊，然后重体育啊，就教室外面。但是
For a long time, students are taught in classrooms, and what they learn is not combined with life. A team studying U.S. society discovered that in the U.S., primary and secondary schools have close connections with their local cultural traditions and their industrial practices. The 4H system enables the combination of education and their practices in life, and it has a history of more than 100 years.
基础教育哈，这些相对来说是比较有一些优点哈，就这样子的一个模式。
So there are some advantages for basic education in the U.S.
我觉得我们这个非遗教育呢
，and ICH education in China
那个生活及教育，陶云之先生他们所倡导的生活教育
has gone back to the education in life promoted by Dway. Of course, today we use the concept of research and study. And we hope that we can realize the valuable combination of ICH and education.
这个跟教育大家合在一起哈，它的这个国际的那个保护非物质文化遗产公约，对吧？它的是在这个那个公约的这个
The Convention for Safeguarding ICH has mentioned the formal and informal education. I will not go into too many details here.
下面一页。对这个非正式教育呢，就是
For the informal education of ICH outside school, or we could say social inheritance. This is inherited by apprenticeship from teachers to students. And of course, now there are institutes and workshops. This is the concept of inheritance. As for communication, the ICH Museum is a good example. And museum education can be combined with school education, which can help with the communication of ICH based on the established system.
因为原来这个什么民间的这些文化，它是进不了国家这些体制里面。
In the past, folk culture cannot go into the national institution. But now that we have established the ICH system, some folk culture can be a demonstration of the national theme.
对，下面3页吧，这个也就把2页都翻过去，因为前面几位老师所展示的非遗进校园呐。
We will skip 2 pages because previous speakers have already presented some of the contents I included here.
教育制度的这样的一个关系，我最后呢，我们就讲一下，就是说，这个非遗教育，它这个概念对于这个人才哈，就是尤其是从创新
And now
人
I will
才，
talk about the concept of ICH education.
需要 尤其是服务
and how it
以
serves
这个
the
被
need
选
of
择
normal
这
people.
里文化哈，就是说你跟文化的那个价值观去对应，这样子的话呢，就是说我们
And
好的是
how is it connected
的能
to
力哈，
the values of culture?
但是我们不知道往什么方向去创新。
Sometimes we have the ability for innovation, but we do not know what we should work with, and we do not know what is the demand.
设计出来不一定能够有市场，不一定能够推广，不一定能够
So whatever we design might not have a market, and we might not get any feedback.
来选择我要往什么方向是这个
We need some criteria to choose the direction for innovation.
就是说我们的高等教育，我们这个人才培养，通过这个非物质文化遗产来确定这些目标，因为非物质文化遗
If
产
higher education can establish some objectives through ICH,
这个生活实践里面筛选出来的一些项目，它就
which are the items selected from people's social life and practices,
在特定的这个空间里面，它所需要的
they involve certain concepts and philosophies that happen in certain spaces. They require certain facilities and infrastructure.
经济啊，这些不同的指标，让这个
There are different indicators. For example, if they are economical and comfortable to use. In these aspects,
因为它有基本的需求嘛，它能够符合中
innovation
相当大量的人
always have markets and demands because they serve the values and experience of Chinese people.
这个非遗教育，最后呢，就是我们把它挪在这个人才培养跟这
So
个
I believe that ICH should stress fostering talents, and they should be matched with innovation in the society. And I believe ICH can play a major role. Due to time constraints, this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
好的，非常感谢高秉忠教授为我们分享。
Thank you, Professor Gao Bingzhong, for talking about types and objectives for ICH practices. Now we will move on to the roundtable discussion session. We invite all the guest speakers and our advisor, Professor Yang Hong, to join the roundtable discussion. In the previous presentations, 5 guest speakers talked about the combination of formal and informal education and multi-subjective cooperation. In the roundtable discussion, we will focus on the third theme,
传承实践与创新发展的并重。
the balance of inheritance practice and innovative development. How can ICH education utilize digital technology to realize the balance and win-win results of inheritance practice and modern development?
话题在不同的非遗教育领域。
Some of the guest speakers have touched upon this topic. So in this session, we will invite our advisor and 2 guest speakers to share with us their insights and opinions. I'd like to invite Professor Gao Bingzhong. Do you have any insights for this topic?
我想哈，就是提一个
Thank you very much.
就是这个
I believe there is a triangular relationship, formal education, people's lives, and the innovation of concepts and ideas. If we can build a solid triangle for these 3 concepts, I believe that
有厚实的文化
innovation in our society will be supported by culture and they can respond to real needs in our lives. I believe this is crucial and fundamental. So that is my point. Thank you.
好的，谢谢高秉忠老师。
Thank you, Professor Gao Bingzhong.
陈军老师或者樊继健老师有没有想
What about Ms. Fan Jijian and Mr. Chen Jun? Would you like to talk about Kunqu opera or Guqin education?
哎，好的，就是
Mr. Chen Jun?
刚才就是好几位
Okay.
好几位老师都提到了，就是它是怎么样
Many speakers talked about how ICH enters our life.
接触古琴、昆曲，还有
Now, Guqin and Kunqu opera are more accessible for the general public and they can be presented in museums. These are all perfect ways to communicate and innovate.
就是这种
And I believe that we can also make full use of digital resource database, and it will be more convenient. For example, we can learn about Kunchi opera on Bilibili. We can access resources that used to be quite difficult to find. It might be a better way than teaching by teachers to students. They are traditional ways for learning, but it can be used by one teacher and one student only. Now that we have information on digital platforms, they will help with the inheritance and communication of Kunchi opera. That is my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chen Jun, for your idea about constructing a digital resource database. It also responds to some other guest speakers' ideas. What about Ms. Fan Xixian? Mr. Chen talked about teaching by teachers to students. This has been a teaching model for Chinese traditional culture, and now traditional culture is reviving, but this teaching mode cannot meet the demand of our time. Technological development have provided us with strong support, and the Tencent Video is exploring many different approaches. Some young Guqin lovers played the songs for some very popular TV shows, and they could also combine Guqin with online video games. This is a better way for children to get more understanding of Guqin. In general, we can combine traditional culture with modern technology, and this is how we help traditional culture of China go global. Ms. Wang Dongmin also talked about how Tai Chi can be better taught by means of modern technology. And we also touched upon the application of digital technology in ICH museums. These are all very insightful experience and ideas. And now let's give the floor to our advisor, Professor Yang Hong. Hello, everyone. I am Yang Hong from Communication University of China, and I am now a visiting researcher at Harvard University. And it's my pleasure to be the advisor for this ICH education panel. This is the first time for Harvard China Education Symposium to involve ICH education, and I think it is very timely. ICH preservation in China is becoming more systematic. ICH education and its integration into the national public education is at a very critical phase. This symposium is an international platform, and I believe it serves special functions for the discussion of ICT education. As Professor Gao Bingzhong said, who is an essential professor in the preservation of ICH, he has deep understandings of the education and the preservation of ICH. And in our following studies of ICH education, we should all refer to his ideas. The connotation and extension of ICH education is very rich. And there are diversities in formal and informal education. We should also focus on the different objectives of ICH education. The implementation of ICH education faces multiple subjects, and I hope that inheritors of ICH can become educators of ICH. And we truly hope that educators in higher institutes can focus more on a project or a certain item of ICH education, so that ICH education can become their special features for education. Such combination is the only way for reaching win-win results and reviving Chinese traditional culture. Thank you. Thank you for your interesting insights in the roundtable discussion. We are approaching the end of the panel, and I believe you're all reluctant to leave. Do you have any more questions? If you do, please feel free to interact with us in our WeChat official account, and we hope that together we can establish a platform for ICH education in China. Thank you all. We believe that ICH education can never use too much attention, and we hope that you can continue to follow ICH education and the China Education Symposium. If you have any questions, please leave a message in the audience group, and later we will give you feedback in our posts of WeChat accounts. In 10 minutes, we will start inclusive education panel. We hope to see you again. Thank you. Thank you all for your interesting presentation. Now we will have a little rest, and we will reconvene at 9:40 for the inclusive education panel. Now we will start the inclusive education panel. We will comprehensively understand the needs of children with special needs. We will present you with some real cases and facilitate the awareness of inclusiveness. Now let's invite the co-directors of the inclusive education panel. Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome to the Inclusive Education Panel of Harvard China Education Forum. The theme is Inclusive Education, Multidimensional Coordination, and Empowering Children with Special Needs. Inclusive education is a major part of education equity. It requires to settle students with special need in ordinary education environment to realize education equity. Now, China is still at a very preliminary stage, and there are many places for improvement. In 2019, there are 2.46 million children with disability between 6 to 14 years old, but only near 80,000 people are in school, among which 50% are learning in regular classrooms. But children with other special needs, for example, autism, ADHD, and learning disorders, have limited opportunity for inclusive education. After the 14th five-year plan, all cities in China are actively promoting special education. It requires more improvement in guarantee system and the education evaluation system. It also requires the inclusion of different disciplines. This panel will talk about the logic of inclusive education, from diagnose evaluation to the plan of social inclusion. We will use real cases and data to give you some insights about people with special need and the current status of China's inclusive education. We hope that we can talk about the future of inclusive education and share our insights. By analyzing the current status and future trends of inclusive education, we hope that we can provide better support for the development and education for people with special needs. We have invited the 4 guest speakers and the 3 co-directors. The co-directors include Xu Zhayi, who is a co-volunteer of Shanghai Inside Counseling and DE of Preschool Education. I am Zhong Huiwen. I have dual degree of English Literature and International Public Policy. The third co-director is Hu Mengting. He is in Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and 2022 Chen Fellow at SICI Harvard Kennedy School. Now I will introduce the 4 guest speakers. Professor Su Xueyun. He is PhD in Special Education and professor in the Department of Preschool Education, Faculty of Education, East China Normal University. Zhao Qi.
孩子家长同事融合教育15年。第4位嘉宾是徐天喜老师，他是华中师范大学教育学院特殊教育学系副教授，澳大利亚纽卡斯尔大学哲学博士，悉尼大学残疾研究与政策中心、悉尼大学脑科学与思维研究中心博士后研究人员。那么接下来来邀请赵雪原老师进行你可能误会熊孩子的讲座。那赵雪原老师的专业方向为关键反应训练 PRT、积极行为支持 PBIS， 同时具有多部译作、课堂内的积极行为干预和支持、积极课堂管理指南、多动症儿童的正念养育等一系列书籍。我们欢迎赵雪原老师来进行他的分享。
翻到第1页 PPT。好的。大家早上好啊！首先是非常开心能有这样一次机会跟大家做融合教育这个非常重要的议题的分享啊。就是大家可能一听说融合教育呢，可能会觉得是有特殊需求的人群融入到主流教育当中去啊，但实际上呢，应该是恰恰相反的，是说我们的学校或者是说教育系统需要去做好准备，能够去为有不同需求的孩子去提供针对性的支持啊，这才是真正的融合教育啊。所以说，这肯定是非常漫长的一个过程。其中的第一步呢，我们首先要去了解我们可能会面临哪些不同类型的孩子，我们怎么样去给他们专业的支持。那像这个我在 PPT 上面列出来的第一类孩子，注意力缺陷、多动障碍 ADHD 的孩子，然后第2类情绪和行为障碍 EBD 的孩子，这2类孩子呢是最容易被误认为是熊孩子的。因为就他们的行为表现来看啊，他们是非常多动的，然后是不听从指令的啊，是非常不服管教的啊，这2类孩子非常被误认为是熊孩子。
These children are always misunderstood as little troublemakers, but they are not intentionally disobeying us. It is because developmental disorders, and they need more professional support before they can better live and learn. The 3rd type is learning disorder, and the 4th type is ASD. These children are misunderstood as stupid children. It seems that you can never teach them anything properly. Of course, there are other types. Due to time constraint, we cannot include all the types. We can only touch upon the most common types in inclusive education. First, let's talk about the learning disorder. It is not intellectual factors that lead to the disorders. For example, if a child has intellectual disorder, or if they have damage in hearing and visual abilities, these are not learning disorders. Learning disorders refer to some mental process disorder, and that leads to the disorder in their learning abilities. Sometimes if we use a broader category, it might also include ADHD, because these are all mental disorders that lead to the problems for study. Learning disorder might include ADHD, which is the most common type we might meet in school. You might notice some children in your classroom are especially active. They cannot pay attention for a long time, and they forget things a lot. These are all symptoms for ADHD. The name of ADHD include attention deficit and hyperactive disorder. Some parents pay more attention to hyperactive disorder. Some teachers notice children with abnormal behavior. For example, they always run around and they cannot control themselves. We usually pay more attention to these children, and we might suspect that they have ADHD, but we do not pay much attention to children who are very quiet. For example, some children might only sit at their desk, and it seems that they are doing their homework, but they might have trouble focusing on their homework, and they cannot concentrate on one single thing. These children are often overlooked, especially some little girls. They might have severe ADHD, but because they're not running around, teachers do not notice, and they couldn't provide timely help. ADHD can now be studied through the perspective of implementation function. For example, we can examine if children can accomplish long-term tasks and other implementations. This is a new way to understand and support ADHD. For children with ADHD, first you could use medication. You could get diagnosed from hospitals, and doctors will prescribe children with some medicine that can help ease some symptoms. However, we definitely need behavior intervention. They need support to truly release the symptoms. These are two supports that we can provide them. The next type we are going to talk about is emotional and behavior disorder. These children might show more typical behavior. Their behavior and mood are all very negative. For most of the time, they would seem depressed or upset. They argue with other people very easily, and they constantly disobey other people. They are confrontational towards authoritative figures, and they do not respect the teachers and the parents. They cannot maintain a healthy interpersonal relationship, and they cannot make friends. These all impact their study and life. Such symptom and pattern last for more than 6 months before they are diagnosed with EBD. There are two major types of EBD. The first type is psychiatric disorders, for example, bipolar disorders, eating disorders, psychotic disorders, and OCD. The second type is behavioral disorder, including oppositional defiant disorder and conduct disorders. If the behavior problems or needs of children with ADHD are never supported, for example, if the teachers and the parents do not understand them, their behavioral problems might be exacerbated, and eventually it might lead to oppositional defiant disorder, which is more severe. So when you meet with children with ADHD, you have to provide them with support. If you do not understand them and if you do nothing, their behavior problems will become worse. Children with EBD need support from mental health practitioners, and some might need to get help from professional hospitals and professional psychiatrists. And some of the psychiatrists in school can provide professional support. The last type is ASD, autism spectrum disorder. This group is widely misunderstood by the general public. If we have watched a lot of movies and TV programs, we might believe that people with autism are genius and they might be gifted in math or art, but actually only a very small percentage of children with autism become a genius. Most children with autism might need our support to deal with daily life. Also, some people might believe that ASD is a very small group, but that is not the case. According to the latest report in the US, the percentage of ASD is 1 to 36, which means there is one person with autism in every 36 people. This is the data from the US. We don't have an accurate number in China, but we should really reflect on this phenomenon because this is not a small group. This is a large social group that require more attention. So what are children with ASD like? First, they have disorders and difficulties in interpersonal communication and socializing. Some people might believe that this is the problem of personality and they are unwilling to communicate with people, but this is also a big misunderstanding. It is not about willingness, it is about developmental disorder. And the second, they have very restricted interests and they tend to obsess with certain things. For people with ASD, they have restricted and repetitive behavior. And if their behavioral pattern is broken, they might even break down. For example, children might cry for a whole day. This is the second feature. And the third feature is that children show symptoms at a very early stage. Some people might say that my kid never showed symptoms when they were little. It was when they grew up that they showed symptoms. That is also a misunderstanding. If they develop autism, it is always from a very early stage. It is just that you didn't notice when they were little and they only show the symptoms when there is an overload of social demands. And the last feature is that their symptom would impact their function for living and study in their daily lives. For people with ASD, first we need to tell the public that now there are no physical treatments or medication. So I need to remind the teachers and parents, when you meet families with children with ASD, and if they want to take medicine to cure ASD, you need to tell them that at present, the only effective way is behavioral intervention. You need to provide them with behavior support so that they can be included in school life and they can manage in their own daily lives. The theme today is to guide you through different types of disorders, because in daily lives, there are many different types of children, especially for teachers. There might be 40 to 50 children in a classroom, and more or less they will be different. If they show symptoms that I share with you today, I hope that you can pay more attention to them and provide them with professional support. It can help you do your work better, and it will help them with their future development. And the children will become better and better, and it will also improve your class. That is all for my presentation today. I hope it is helpful for you. Thank you, Ms. Zhao Xuelian. Now let's give the floor to the second guest speaker, Professor Su Xueyun. Professor Su Xueyun is PhD and Associate Professor in Special Education. She is Deputy Dean of the Department of Preschool Education at East China Normal University. Her research focuses on early intervention of autism and developmentally delayed children, assisted communication, preschool integration education, and assessment and development of infants and young children. She leads 16 national social science general projects, as well as projects from the Ministry of Education on humanities and the social sciences. She works as the person in charge of the Chinese version of AEPS 3, and her works include Psychology of Extraordinary Children, Early Intervention for Infants. Let's welcome her for her presentation. Thank you. Please change my slide. Thank you. Today, I will focus on preschool inclusive education because my study mainly faces young children. Ms. Zhao Xuelian has already touched upon some types of abnormal behavior that children might exhibit in school. First, I'd like to thank the invitation from the host, and I'd like to thank Harvard China Education University for opening an inclusive education panel to pay attention to this area that is normally overlooked. Due to time constraints, I will mainly focus on preschool inclusive education and talk about the current status, challenges, and opportunities. And I want to raise a concept when it comes to inclusive education. It's not something that only faces children with disability. It is for the fair and high quality early education for every child. If you have paid attention to education, you might have known the curve of Heckman. We know that if we invest in education earlier, we will get better return on investment. From the perspective of brain science, we know that the early stage is very important for a child's development. I want to stress that we don't need to teach children mathematical knowledge or how to write Chinese characters at an early stage. This is a misunderstanding in early education. We are talking about experience instead of knowledge. I'd like to give you an example which might seem a bit exaggerated. I'd like to send a piece of important message for parents and teachers. Some teachers in ordinary schools might have background in special education, and they are capable of providing special education for children. There are many cases where children with special needs entering ordinary schools or kindergartens. Some teachers might say that I don't have experience, and they would suggest the parents to send their children to rehabilitation facilities. However, the facilities don't have a unified standard. For example, I heard about a case last year. A rehabilitation facility in Shanghai arranged 7 classes for 3-year-old children, and they only have 5-minute intervals between 75-minute classes, and most of the classes are taught in classrooms on desks. And many trainings are behavior-oriented. So do the children really make progress? Maybe some of the children adapt and they recognize some of the cards, but for children, this is not a scientific way approach for study, because at an early stage, no matter how special they are, they're still children, and they follow the basic pattern for children development. There are many conclusions that we have already come up with in the study of general education. We have also reached a consensus in terms of the means and channels for early education. They should be conducted in natural environments. They need company. They need a good teacher and the student relation. They need different materials for games. And these experiences have profound impact on children. So let's go back to this question. Who is inclusive education for? Are they only for children with special needs, or are they only for children with disabilities? We need to reflect on these opinions, especially during the preschool period, because the curriculum is very different from other education phases. We want to add more games, and adults do not want to interfere with the development of children too much. We only need to provide a positive environment for the children. And teachers should provide professional guidance and support. For preschool education, some children do not have a specific diagnosis, but they might have diverse needs in their studies. High quality early education should face every child, and they should respond to the different and special need. If we can really realize inclusive education, it is not for teachers who are trained specifically for special education. Every teacher should deal with this problem. As Julian just mentioned, in 2023, CDC in the US released a report on people with autism, and the percentage has reached 1 in 76 people. It is not a disease because we do not know the cause and there is no medical solution. The early development of brain lies in people's interaction with other people and environment, and there are huge potentials. If we only think about flaws, if we only apply approaches that are not in line with the natural pattern of education, it might be counterproductive. We can all think about how we learned to communicate with people and how we learned social interaction. Do we need companions? If you learn swimming, you cannot learn properly on a bank. It is impossible for you to learn the gestures and then know how to swim in the water. You have to go inside the water and learn. If you want children to master certain techniques and skills, you have to put them in a natural scenario. I always use a very simple example in terms of diversify the need for study, the difference in gender. Some boys cannot sit for a long time, and they need a large quantity of activities. You don't need to change the children. You should consider how education can understand the features of the learners better, and we should adjust teaching approaches according to the need of children. For example, Shanghai proposed that every kindergarten should guarantee 2 hours of outdoor activities for children. This is good news for boys because they don't need to sit in the classroom all the time. I won't talk too much about the concept of inclusiveness. You can see it online. It is nothing new, and it is translated in different ways. In China, we have also proposed the concept of learning in regular classes. And there are 2 other concepts that is a bit negative. First, mixed education in regular classes and sitting in regular classes. When we talk about inclusive education, for the core logic and essence of inclusive education, maybe we haven't completely put it into practice. For example, the Salamanca Statement, it is not considered, inclusive education is not considered from the outset as a way of settlement. True inclusiveness is not a physical way of settlement. You have to include the children in the courses, environment, and activities. From the social level, classes and teachers should accept and respect the differences of the children. We could even consider these disorders or disabilities as a resource instead of a burden. Some teacher might not want children with disorders to come to their classroom, and maybe some parents don't want their children to study with children with disorders or obstacles. High quality inclusive education need high quality support, and the support should come from a whole system. We should create an accepting culture that create a sense of belonging. There are obstacles and challenges in China, and that is also the case around the world. Even in Northern Europe, you might notice that in human society, which might also be the case in the US, if we truly want to accept all individuals and accept all differences between people, especially when people are different from me, we need rational thinking and emotional acceptance, and also guarantee from the political level. It is nothing easy. It is difficult in China, and it's also difficult for education around the world. This is something that we can realize only through efforts. So why I stress preschool inclusive education today? Because people's development all starts from the preschool period. We have made some studies of peer support. Sometimes in the eyes of children, maybe children with disabilities or special needs are different from those in the eyes of adults. For example, if we ask them to say who is their best friend, many children named a little boy who has disabilities, who is not even proficient at languages. So the teacher asked, why do you think he's your best friend? First, he doesn't grab our toys. Second, he smiles to us every day. And the third, he never speaks anything bad about us. So children view things from a very different perspective. And because at the early stage, brain development is malleable, and the curriculum of preschool education puts children at the center, and there are many activities and games. If we cannot conduct preschool inclusive education properly, and if some parents provide individual training programs for children, you might notice that they have many improvements, but they are still face the challenges in a collective social group. Why children go to kindergarten? It is not about learning knowledge or culture. It's for them to adapt to different procedures and a group. In kindergarten, they need to learn to take care of themselves, and they learn to play different games and toys. In the process of the games, they also learn to interact with people. These are all critical skills for the preparation of future life. So we need to pay more attention to the support of preschool inclusive education. As I have mentioned, there are so many things to do for preschool inclusive education. Even if some children are not diagnosed, they might also need the support of inclusive education. Last year, we started to coordinate with the Department of Education to improve the inclusive education qualities for preschool teachers, and I am in charge of this project. I hope that in the future, we can combine efforts to improve high-quality preschool education and make sure that every child has equal and high-quality preschool education. Thank you. That is all for my presentation. Thank you, Ms. Su Xueyun. And now let's give the floor to the third guest speaker, Ms. Zhao Qi. Ms. Zhao Qi is the principal of Beijing Modern Wisdom Inclusive Kindergarten and deputy chairman Beijing Preschool Education Association. He graduated from Capital Normal University and founded the first inclusive kindergarten in Beijing in 2005. She led her team to establish the Sustainable Development Model of Preschool Inclusive Education in China, from kindergarten to primary school to sending teachers home. The team has served more than 20 kindergartens, primary schools, and middle schools every year. They have established a research base of many universities. She has published 2 guidelines on teaching training for inclusive preschool education and special education assistance. Ms. Zhao is also in charge of the 12th 5-year and 13th 5-year China Society of Preschool Education Research projects that won many awards in China. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity to share my insights with you. Now, previously, the 2 speakers talked about the development of inclusive education from the perspective of theory, and I will talk about inclusive practices. I am Zhao Qi. I'm from Beijing, and I am the principal of an inclusive kindergarten. This is the only kindergarten who is named as inclusive among the 2,000 kindergartens in Beijing. And I'd like to share with you some of our experience and insights. And I hope that the experts and friends can provide us with some comments. My topic is preschool inclusive education, the path for the future. I will start from the kindergarten and some achievements and the practices and some future efforts and opportunities. Beijing Modern Wisdom Inclusive Kindergarten is its current name. It used to be named Modern Art Kindergarten. It was established in 2005. It is the Class 1 kindergarten of Beijing. There are 3 classes and 220 children, including 25 children with special needs. We have also a part-time class, a rainbow class. There are more than 30 children with special needs. The problems for the children include retarded development and autism tendency. Experts, peers, and teachers sometimes come and visit our kindergarten. They usually ask one question. There are so many children with special needs. Are the parents of the normal children happy with that? And our answer is yes. As was shown on the screen of Harvard China Education Forum, are your children happy to go to a same kindergarten with children with special needs? With the efforts of the education industry and the society, we have now agreed that going to school is the right of every child, including children with special needs. The host also introduced that I am a mother of a 20-year-old child with autism. When my child was diagnosed with autism, I resigned my job and I started to take her to rehabilitation. And we made some progress. There was only one kindergarten in Beijing that was willing to accept him. He received professional support and he managed to live with normal children. So now I become a principal of the kindergarten. When my child was in primary school, I took him to interviews. The presidents of primary schools say that your child has the right to go to school, but other children also have the right to receive high quality education. I want the right for my child to go into the campus. If he cannot even go into the campus, how can we conduct inclusive education? And what is the nature for education? So I met a very good principal and my child lived in the primary school for 6 years, and he successfully completed the path of inclusiveness in primary school. I want every child to enjoy equal and high quality education. It has always been our objective, and it is instilled in our activities and actions for education. What is a good education model? It has to benefit every child. I always say that we should cherish every child. I have 2 children, one with autism and one healthy child. I hope that my children have good life and high quality education platform, and I hope that both of them can have a happy life. That is also the case for my kindergarten. Every child is like our own child, and we have to think for every child's development and education. High quality education is not only for children with special needs, it's also for every child. And that is the premise of inclusive education. High quality service and education in kindergarten also provides a foundation for high quality inclusive education. Respect, cooperation, autonomy, and develop is our slogan. It is not only for children, but also for families, parents, and teachers. We all respect the same value. We put children at the center and connect teachers, families, parents, and children. Some experts say that kindergarten is by nature the best venue for inclusive education because it has different environments and daily routines. It has different themes, different experiences, and activities. As Ms. Su just said, when children come to kindergarten, they don't learn knowledge or specific skills. Their daily routine is a very good venue and channel for education of life. And these are things that special education facilities don't have. However, children with special needs cannot go with this link in their recovery. And in our kindergarten, there are children with special needs in every class. They are simply a member of the class and they receive preschool education along with other kids. And this is true inclusive education. Over 18 years, we have served 1,000 children with special needs, 90% of which enter regular primary school for further studies. And this is the data for every year. Now we have served more than 3,000 children with special needs and their families. So what are the impacts of kindergarten inclusive education? We also made some studies. Reality has proved that inclusive education benefits every child. It improves their own growth. For children with special needs, inclusive education gives them more opportunities to communicate with regular children and provide them with natural scenarios for study and lay foundations for their future entry into the mainstream education environment. For normal children, they have a very open attitude. When they go into kindergarten, they are like a blank canvas. So a good campus, a good kindergarten, and a good teacher is crucial for the development of children. In early education, children naturally understand people's similarities and differences, and they learn to respect people's diversity. This is valuable for the future development of their personalities and values, and it provides an opportunity for learning from each other. For the society, inclusive education facilitates education equity, balance, and sustainable development. In traditional education, we always say that we should teach students based on their own characteristics. But how many kindergartens, primary schools, and secondary schools can really do this? There are many children with learning disabilities or disorders. If teacher can learn some knowledge about their disorders and provide support, these children might go through very significant changes in their early education and consequently their future life. In such education environment, inclusive education has raised a concept how can we adapt education according to the characteristics of different children? Inclusive education puts people at the center. Early inclusive education can provide more possibilities for children, and it can reduce social costs in the future and reduce the burden of the families. We have constructed the system for inclusive education for 12 years. During the 13th five-year plan, Beijing has completed the 4-level system of inclusive education support system, especially in the Haidian district. We believe that education is the golden card for the Haidian district, and inclusive education and special education is indispensable. We never deny any child who enters the education system, and the special teaching resources have covered all schools and kindergartens. We have 8 school catchment area education centers. We have experts from all areas. And we provide evaluation and support for schools who apply for special education services. These are very systematic and they are applied at large scale for mandatory education. Since the 13th five-year plan, inclusive education and the special education has been included in this comprehensive system. Since the 13th to the 14th five-year plan, inclusive education is included in the action plan. Now, our kindergarten has been established for 14 years, and we have established a comprehensive management system and the teacher training system. We also helped dozens of kindergartens to start their attempts of inclusive education. In this process, we have a deep feeling that it is very important for teachers and leaders and managers of kindergartens to have the awareness of inclusive education. And this is the crucial first step. And also, continuous professional support is very important. We have established the form of inclusive education since 2005. Inclusive education, individualized education, and the family support are organically combined. Based on the need of every child with special needs, we would make individualized plans. And these 3 elements can support the development of children together. For the preparation of inclusive education environment, kindergarten is the best venue for inclusive education, and we do not need much preparation for hardware. We only need to provide some teaching resources and facilities for special education. The most difficult thing is the creation of the humanities environment. It requires a long process for construction, and in the humanities environment, teachers play a crucial role. Teacher is a mirror for parents and children. Teachers should first have the awareness and understanding of inclusive education. It is not about sympathy. It is a requirement of education. From the national guideline for the rules and regulations in the kindergarten. Inclusive education and special education are both included. Teachers should set an example for parents, and we should be a very positive interpreter of inclusive education and impact them in a positive way. In inclusive education, we should also train relevant personnel, and it should be conducted in a systematic way. We have done inclusive education for many years, and we have formed a very standard procedure. We have built many resource classrooms in the kindergarten. And this is a management system we have provided for many kindergartens. You could simply provide an empty room with some chairs and tables, and also some toys. And then they could be considered as the materials and equipment for inclusive education. Professional evaluation is very important. It is a starting point. From a professional evaluation to making up targets for intervention, we can complete a comprehensive plan. In the process of inclusive education, we noticed that intervention for individual cases is very important, and this is mentioned very frequently. In the kindergarten, our behavior analysis will observe and record the behaviors of the children and set a feasible target. Our goal is to truly solve the problem. The support of inclusive education requires a team. It is not enough if only one or two teachers or the principal is involved. It requires coordination of a team and different departments. On this slide, you could see that we require participation of schools and kindergartens. We also require the participation of parents and children. Together, we can complete the process of inclusive education. We have also created our own brand. We are grateful because Wisdom Inclusive Kindergarten is based in the Haidian district. We have the kindergarten and the two brands of the Wisdom Inclusive Education Center. We have served many schools, parents, and children. From rehabilitation to kindergarten inclusiveness education to primary school inclusive education, we have formed a comprehensive system, and we have published more than 50 papers. We have completed more than 30 research, and we have completed many projects in collaboration with different institutions. From preschool to mandatory education, our service covers different stages of development. It is the demand of the children that push us to development faster. We have conducted work to train special education assistants, and we have completed a guidance for service. Today, our service has reached 10 districts in Beijing, and our training service has reached 24 provinces and cities. Especially from 2019 to 2020, we directed and guided the city of Zhumadian to establish a 3-level system for preschool inclusive education. For children with special need, early recovery and rehabilitation is very important. Now, the entry rate for normal children in kindergarten is 58.1%, but the percentage for children with disability is only 0.07%. This is a very important point that we should pay more attention to. Since 2016, mental and behavioral development problem has been included in children's physical and mental health evaluation. Early intervention can provide more opportunities for students to enter the mainstream education environment. Inclusive education has also entered the China Inclusive Education Promotion Project. The 14th five-year plan has also led the inclusive education from popularization to more comprehensive and deep development. Preschool integration is only the starting point, and our future development direction is to realize community integration and social integration. We will make more efforts to live up to the trust of students and parents. We hope that every child can enjoy high-quality education and every child with special needs can enjoy inclusive education. I'd like to thank Harvard China Education Symposium again for this opportunity, and I welcome comments from all of you. Thank you for your interesting presentation, Ms. Zhao Qi. Now let's give the floor to the fourth guest speaker, Mr. Xu Tianxi. Mr. Xu Tianxi is the Associate Professor of the Department of Special Education, School of Education at Central China Normal University. His research focuses on school-to-work transition education and service for students with developmental disabilities, family support, and quality of life for students with disabilities, assistive technology, and supported employment for people with developmental disabilities. Let's give the floor to Professor Xu Tianxi. Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the invitation from the host. I appreciate this opportunity to participate in Harvard China Education Symposium and share some of my thinking and experience with all of you. Today, I will talk about students with special needs and where they end up after leaving school. First, I'd like to show you some data. This is based on the survey in 2006. It shows that in China, the number of people with disabilities have reached 85 million, and it accounts for more than 6% of the total population. The previous speakers have talked about preschool inclusive education and high-quality inclusive education. When I do my research, I recall that when I first started to study special education, since 1986, more students can go to school. And there has been a transition from being able to go to school to being able to receive high-quality education. So what has been the development? There are many favorable policies. For example, the 13th five-year plan involved the extension of education at two ends. So where do all the students end up? This is a very meaningful topic. And I believe more people should pay attention to this topic. I also referred to another set of data, the 2022 14th five-year National Health Plan. In China, the average life expectancy is 77.9. The number for people with disability is 56.9, and the number for people with severe disability is 48.5. Even for people with severe disabilities, they might live to 50 years old. In this life cycle, people and students with special needs need more attention in terms of their future, including policymakers, teachers, and parents. Because 50 years is a very long period as a life cycle. This is a picture that I really like. I came across this picture in 2001 when I was going through literature. Many students with special needs, after completing the 9-year mandatory education, or maybe after high school education, in many occasions, after graduation, children or students with special needs are faced with very severe.
就重新回到了家庭，回到了社区，真正能够或者能或不能过上有意义的这样的一个有质量的生活呢，其实还是有很多可以改进的空间。包括前面的几位嘉宾都讲到了，我们在提供高质量的义务教育、高质量的学前教育、高质量的学前融合，但是后端的这样的一个高中教育、职业教育的跟进，是不是也是高质量的呢？能不能够更好的相互去衔接和匹配呢？就直接会影响我们特殊需要的学生最终走向何方，或者走的质量是怎么样的？好，请主持人到下一页具体。那基于对于相关的一些文献、一些数据的梳理呢，我们可以发现呢，绝大部分学生毕业之后，他们的去向无外乎就是3个方面。假设我们大致去分一个分类的话，当然呢，包括普通学生也是一样，包括我在内。那我不管是完成哪一个阶段的学业之后，我需要面对的可能主要是这3个方面，要不就是继续教育，我能不能够继续进一步的去接受教育，去不断的提升和学习，那这个可能是我们包括特殊学生在内的所有学生需要去考虑的一个问题。那么另外2个呢，独立生活、独立自主的生活可能也是我们需要去考虑到的，即便是回到家庭、回到社区。那么还有一个趋向就是我们说到的就业，我们的学生能不能够去实现就业呢？那我想大家可能都有这样的一个共鸣啊，就是一旦就业之后呢，我们肯定是会有经济收入，然后我们对于这个自我的实现，包括人际的交往、社会的参与，可能都是会有很重要的一个作用的。甚至说我们说就业的话，它是可以直接决定我们参与或者融入社会的一个质量是什么样的。我下面配了2张图片，其实想表达的一个意思是什么呢？虽然说可能对于非障碍的、非特殊需要的这个群体而言，从毕业之后实现我们提到的3个维度的这样的一些这个目标，或者说是去提升的话呢，似乎我们认为是理所当然或者是顺理成章的。但是对于特殊需要的学生，可能他们所需要面临的挑战和困难就会更多。所以2张图片上面，我想呈现出来的就是怎么样从这个两边去衔接起来。从学校到成人生活，怎么样可以更有质量一些？可能是需要有更多人的一些这种支持，给他们提供更多的这种桥梁，去为他们提供更多的这样的一些帮助，包括我们的这种教育的这样的一个设计，不同这个年龄段之间课程内容、教学方式的衔接，可能都需要去考虑。好，请到下一页。那刚刚我虽然列出来了，不管是继续教育还是就业还是独立生活，我觉得最终的一个走向，作为一个完整的人来说的话，一个完整的个体，他们可能对于特殊需要的学生，他最终可能还是要去参与并且融入社会，这个是所有人都没有办法去回避的一个话题。好，再到下一页。那如果说我们要融入社会，或者说是参与社会，更有质量的去参与社会的话呢，它可能有什么样的一些主要的影响因素呢？我这边大概列了一下比如说我们所提供的教育、康复、支持是不是有质量的？我们有没有使用一些更优化的一些技术手段、辅助设备、辅助技术，去为我们的生活 就业、去赋能、去提供支持，我们的政策法规是不是更加的友好和完善，包括我们讲到的这种医疗水平、社会文化等等，包括我刚刚提到的就业，可能都直接会影响我们的这个特殊需要的学生能不能够顺利的去参与社会、融入社会，有质量、有尊严的去参与和融入。所以，那对于我们的家长也好，老师也好，包括这个高校的研究者也好，其实我们也应该去考虑到的，政策制定者也是怎么样可以更好的从这几个维度去尽可能的为特殊需要的学生去提供更优质的一些支持和保障。可能也可以让我们有更多的一些思考。那基于这样的一个考虑，请主持人到下一页。那我们可以怎么样去？我们知道有这样的一些影响因素，怎么样可以更好的去实现社会融合呢？请到下一页。那我这边这个也是比较喜欢的一张图片啊，就是所想表达的意思呢，就是如果说我们要去参与社会、融入社会的话，我觉得现在提的比较多的一个观点叫什么？叫全人发展观。对于那个英文叫 whole person approach， 就是怎么样可以把我们的学生当作是一个完整的人、完全的人。即便他是有特殊需要的，但我们首先是不是看到他的是他的残疾，是他的障碍，还是把他当做一个完整的人呢？我觉得这个就至关重要，直接就会影响我们的这种行为、行动包括后续一系列的保障。那对于一个完整的人的话，我现在区分也不一定是完全对的，就是只是做一个我自己的一个思考。我觉得一个完整的人，他可能所需要的生活维度应该会包括这3个方面。第一个方面呢是个人生活，第二个呢是社会生活，第三个是职业生活。这边想要列出来就是我们说的个人生活，包括前面苏雪云教授讲到的，能不能够让孩子之间有更多的社会交往、社会交互，其实也是直接会影响他们后续发展很重要的一个内容。那社会生活和个人生活呢，我觉得它是为职业生活去提供支撑、提供基础的。而职业生活的高度或者说是质量，很大程度上是取决于个人生活和社会生活的这样的一个前期的准备，包括我们说到人际交往、独立自主的生活这些也都会直接最终决定他们自己的生活质量。所以当我们再去考虑特殊学生最终走向何方我们如何去推进他们社会融合的时候呢，或者融入社会的时候呢，也应该考虑到他在个人生活、社会生活以及职业生活这样的一些维度下面需要具备什么样的一些能力，同时我们需要给他们提供什么样的一些支持。请到下一页。那如果说我们在这个全人发展观的这样的一个视野下呢，我们也可以进一步再去思考，在不管是50年还是70年这样的一个生命历程之中，那我们特殊儿童、特殊需要的人士，他们会扮演什么样的一些角色，会承担什么样的一些职责呢？我这里就想借用一个也是比较经典的一个理论，一个图片请到下一页。借用苏博在1976年就提出来的生涯发展这样的一个彩虹图，给大家做一个分享。每一个个体，包括我刚刚讲到的有特殊需要的学生、特殊需要的人士，都会经历成长、探索、建立、维持和退出这5个阶段。它基本上对应的就是童年、青春期，以及成年、中年、老年这样的一个生命阶段。而每一个阶段里面，我们可以看到，它其实对应的一些角色会有什么呢？比如子女、学生、休闲者、公民、工作者、持家者等等这样的一些不同的一些角色或者任务。基本上每一个阶段都会有3到4个这样的一个发展任务。就比如说我们现在线上的一些这个同仁朋友们，可能我们同时是子女，可能也是学生，也是休闲者，也是公民，也是工作者，可能我们角色也是这样的一些方面。那对于特殊需要的学生呢，特殊需要的这个成年人呢，他们又是什么样的一些角色呢？其实他们也会是这样的一些角色，他们也需要有这种休闲娱乐的这样的一些能力，需要有学习的能力，可能同时也是学生，也是这种子女，包括有可能就业之后作为一个工作者。那这些呢，都会直接就影响我们每一个学生他所扮演角色的这样的一个质量，所参与的这样的一个程度，肯定就是直接影响他们的生活质量。所以在这种生涯发展这样的一个视域之下呢，我想再简要的介绍另外一个框架请到下一页。这个呢也是我最近的关注相对比较多的一个框架这个是这个美国智力与发展性障碍协会的前任主席罗伯特·夏洛克教授和他们团队呢经过多年的研究和实践提出来的关于生活质量的一个框架。 它对应的一个量表呢叫个人成果量表，叫 personal outcome scale。然后这样的一个框架，它其实呈现出来的是什么呢？就是每一个个体，无论我们的文化、民族或者说是残疾与否我们基本上去界定每一个个体的生活质量的时候，都会可以从下面这8个方面去界定，也就是我们说到的个人发展、自我决策、人际关系、社区融合权利、情绪福祉、身体福祉、物质福祉等等这些方面去考量。那同样，因为时间的关系，我们不多展开它。那我们可以想象，对于我们自己，我们的生活质量的高和低，其实跟这些是直接相关的。那么对于特殊需要的学生呢，对于特殊需要的成人呢，他们其实也会涉及到个人发展的问题、人际关系的问题、自我决策的问题、社区融合的问题，以及他们的这种情绪、身体、物质福祉的问题。所以，那么基于这样的一个框架，我觉得我们可以去考虑的一个问题是什么呢？我们到底应该怎么样的去关注到，不管是学前教育还是义务教育阶段，到底怎么样可以更好的去为他们后续的发展去提供这种支撑和可能呢？怎么样可以给他们提供到更适合他们所需要的这样的一些能力呢？所以我就尝试的去列了一些可能我认为的对于特殊需要的学生比较重要的一些生活领域请到下一页。基于前面的一些框架呢，我觉得有居家生活的能力、教育、就业它这样的一个能力，以及休闲娱乐、社区参与、自我决策、人际关系、身心状况等等，这些可能都是我们需要去关注到的，在我们日常的这种教育教学，包括家庭的这种交往亲子的关系上面，我们可能都需要去注重去培养这样的一些能力。我这里也是重点是把休闲和娱乐的能力放到这里，就包括我们可以想象我们自己。如果说在工作的压力之下，我们偶尔可能想着我要出去放松一下，可以是运动，也可以是比如说这种其他的一种远足或者其他的一些形式但至少我觉得休闲娱乐它其实对于所有人是比较重要的。那居家生活我前面也有说过，包括人际交往这些至少都是很重要的一些生活领域。那么在生涯发展的这样的一个视域之下，如果我们说要去适应未来的发展，那他们到底所需要什么样的一些能力呢？我觉得如果说简单一点我们可以去做一个对照的话，可能也是可以在这些维度下面有相应的一些能力的发展请到下一页。我这边也是尝试列出来的有几项不同的一些能力就比如说职业生涯的这种发展的能力独立生活的能力、生涯规划的能力，还有自我决策的能力、人际交往的能力、终身学习的能力。因为不管是哪一个个体，这种学会学习其实也是非常重要的一种能力，这种知识的迁移、技能的迁移包括人际交往，我觉得这些可能都是会比较重要的。那借着这样的一个框架之下呢请到下一页。我觉得我们现在可以借助这样的一个框架，可以再做一些思考。这个呢是在2022年的11月1号呢，我们中华人民共和国的教育部发布了一个特殊教育办学质量的评价指南，它提出来了5大指标。这边5大指标呢，分别对应的就是政府的履行职责以及课程教学实施、教师队伍建设学校组织管理以及学生适宜发展这样的一个指标。最终它指向的是学生的适宜发展我们注意可以看到是什么？它讲的是特殊教育的办学质量评价，不是特殊教育学校。所以呢，不管是我们讲到的融合教育、随班就读，包括我们学前特殊教育，可能都是可以去适用的。在这样的一个框架之下呢，它最终指向的第5个维度呢是学生的适宜发展，也就是学生最终到底他应该发展成什么样，它可能是受我们这一系列因素的影响的。所以呢，我的一个想法是什么呢？既然我们因为是一个教育论坛的话，我觉得教育的抓手，它的作用应该会起到更大的一个作用。怎么样更好的去为我们有特殊需要的学生、特殊需要的儿童提供高质量的教育、康复支持和服务，可能最终就直接会决定他们能不能够获得适宜的一个发展。那么，包括我们的师资队伍的配备、课堂教学的这种调整、学校组织管理的这种革新，可能都会直接影响学生后续的这种发展。好，请到下一页。那基于这样的一些思考呢，我也尝试的提出了几点建议就是我们现在的很多不同阶段的一些教育呢，其实很多时候可能它会存在什么样的一个问题呢？就是我们的教育至少我做了，至于做的怎么样，好像并没有过多的去做一些考量。如果说我们能够以结果为导向，刚刚讲到，假设就业是很重要的一个内容。当然，我并没有说所有的学生就一定完完全全都可以去实现就业。如果说至少我们秉承着以就业为导向、以结果为导向， 然后进一步的反思我们的之前的这种支持该怎么样去提供，我们的课程该怎么样去整合，我们的义务教育段和职业教育段或者高中教育段怎么样去衔接，包括我们的学前教育有一些内容是不是也可以更好的去打下更坚实的基础。就是这个呢，结果导向的这种思维，它可能就直接会决定后期特殊需要的学生他的生活质量、生活品质的高低。所以至少我们在观念层面上面应该有更多的一些努力，可以通过一些政策，也可以通过一些前面分享嘉宾讲到的宣导活动，至少我们要有这样的一个意识，才知道我们怎么样去开展相应的一些行动。那么具体来说，在行动方面呢，前面好几位嘉宾可能都讲到了，评估是很重要的，我们要了解学生的起点水平，知道他们的这个优势、能力、兴趣、爱好、家庭的期望等等，进而帮助他们去制定这种生涯化的转型的计划，提供多层次的精准的支持。然后另外一个呢，就是不同的部门、不同的学段之间怎么样更好的去整合资源、去合作，实现这种横向和纵向的这样的一些衔接，其实也是非常重要的。还有一个呢，前面苏雪云教授也讲到了，在真实的这种情境之下，可能更好，也更有助于我们的学生们去提升技能去习得这样的一些技能。所以呢，我们这边也提到有一点是什么呢？就是以社区为依托，增加更多的这种实地的体验感受，帮助学生更好的去学习、去适应，这样提升他们的这种社会适应性。还有一个呢，就是基于我们的观念也好，行动也好，怎么样可以构建起这样的一个支持保障的体系呢？我觉得还是从这种政策抓手上面，我们做更多的这种建议，更多的这样的一些倡导，去让我们的顶层的设计，我们政策的保障更加的完善，有更加健全的支持保障体系。可能这样的话呢，可以有助于进一步的去提升或者改善我们特殊需要学生最终去向的这样的一个质量。能够让他们真正实现有质量、有尊严的参与和融入社会。因为时间的关系，有些内容就没有过多的展开。以上是我的一个简要的一个分享。谢谢大家，不但之处，请大家多多批评指正。
谢谢徐老师的分享。那么接下来是问答环节，欢迎大家在直播间中将自己想与老师们讨论的问题发到评论区。与此同时，我们首先欢迎分论坛的主创之一1+1来进行提问，我们也会持续关注评论区，欢迎大家积极参与问答环节。
Hello， 我想问一下赵琦老师，就是我想问问，当学校能够给的支持都用了，比如说荣慧老师也请了，影子老师也请了，但是发现这个孩子还是跟不上，那么这种时候呢，就是家长有可能就有点想放弃了，所以我就想问问，作为老师该怎么和家长沟通？
The students are still lagging behind. Sometimes maybe the parents want to give up. So how can we communicate with teachers and tell them not to give up? There is a premise for giving up or not. First, we should base on the ability of the children and help them choose a path that is suitable for themselves. This is very important. In mandatory education phase, because the education in kindergarten is quite easy. In the phase of mandatory education, very few students drop out of school. And when they have more coursework and more difficulties in study, if the intellectual level and understanding of logical thinking is still at the level of a 4 or 5-year-old child, maybe they cannot keep up in the second grade. That's when we should pay more attention, because now we have better life and children enter adolescence earlier. If children couldn't keep up with other classmates and they do not have special support or professional support, we would suggest that the students can be transferred to special education schools. That might be better for the children. For example, my son had a special assistant in primary school because he couldn't keep up at the second grade, but he didn't have any behavioral problems. So he can follow the classroom teaching smoothly. And then he entered a regular middle school, and the teachers and principals were very good. But he threw a huge tantrum. And he was edgy and he had many problems at school. That was when we stopped and reflected. After comprehensive analysis, we decided that we should send him to a special education school. After going to the special education school, we didn't take any measures to intervene, but he naturally recovered because that was approach that was suitable for him. Thank you for your answer, Ms. Zhao. I'd also like to ask Mr. Xu Tianxi. I know that you study employment for children in secondary school. Their special needs are not well met. So how should they balance recovery and career development? How should they set the priority? I believe that the priority is based on individual needs and the expectation of the families. I mentioned that we should do evaluations first because we need to understand what the children's abilities and problems are. There are not enough communications between different phases of education. Maybe in secondary education, children should first understand what is their baseline level, and they also need to take into account their own and their family's expectancy. And then we should consider what are the supports that we can provide to support the development that they desire. This is something that we should consider. Thank you. Thank you for your answers. We have received some very good questions in the comments. The first question is for Ms. Zhao Xuelian. How can we differentiate retarded development of linguistic abilities and the children with special needs? If it is delayed linguistic development, you should first observe if they have autism or if it is normal delayed linguistic development. Sometimes when other children have started to speak, parents start to notice that there are problems with their children. If it is autism, the reason they do not talk is that they have problems in communicating and socializing. They don't have the motive to communicate. So they do not think that language is something that they have to learn. That's why they don't speak early. They do not understand that they should build connections with this world, and language is a way to build connection. They wouldn't think that language is useful. Children with autism are more accustomed to doing things alone. For example, they're thirsty, they would reach for water themselves. They don't want to communicate. So their linguistic problem is caused by their lack of motive to communicate. As for normal delayed development, it is not because of their motives. It is because they have difficulties in learning languages. That is very different from children with autism. Another question is that in regular schools, many parents refuse to acknowledge that their children is showing delayed development or disorders. That involves communication with parents. For some parents, maybe they enjoy high status in the society, or they are biased towards special people. They might think that if my child is diagnosed with disorders, are they labeled as incapable? Or they will be treated differently by other people. So they might be resistant towards this diagnosis. But as teachers, we need to be very clear with the parents that children are faced with many problems and they really need professional support. If they are brought up in an ordinary way, it wouldn't work for them. So they need special and professional support so that they can study better, they can live better, and they won't have so many behavior problems. These are the key points that you should communicate with teachers, the parents. If you want your child to improve, if you want to reduce the difficulties for him, you have to provide the professional support. There is no need to worry about labels. Parents can communicate with teachers and let the teachers know that they don't want other people to know about their children's disorders or problems, but teachers have to know so that they can provide special support. Thank you, Ms. Zhao Xuelian. We have one last question. I'd like to ask Mr. Zhao Qi and Professor Xu. Some of the audience might come from remote areas where education is not that developed. They'd like to know, for areas with limited resources, what are the things that they could do for preschool education and mandatory education? Can you provide any suggestions or guidance? Okay, first I'd like to talk about inclusive education. It is not only for remote places, even in the 17 districts in Beijing, for the Dongcheng district, the Xicheng district, and Haidian district, inclusive education is quite developed. While in other districts, for example, the Fangshan district, many principals say that I haven't met with any child with special need in my decades of experience as a principal. So the difference is so big in Beijing. So differences must exist in other remote cities and areas. For preschool education, I hope that children should go to kindergartens to the best of their abilities, because the education in kindergartens is standardized. If they can follow the education in kindergarten for 3 years, it proves that they don't have severe behavior problems. And then parents can communicate with teachers so that students can get timely support. Maybe they are not that professional, but many details in their teaching methods can solve many problems. Especially for remote cities, some children with special needs don't even go to school, and some do not know that there are institutes for special needs. It is important that students go to kindergartens and schools, and they should definitely grasp this opportunity, and they should communicate with teachers timely. Thank you. What about children at an earlier stage? I fully agree with Ms. Zhao. I believe something common in places with developed and underdeveloped economic status. Parents and teachers need to plan in advance. The reality is that even in big cities and developed cities like Beijing and Shenzhen, sometimes when children with special needs cannot go to schools, they start to consider where should my child go. Of course, this might only for some of the parents, but if we can think about the future development and the skills needed for the development of their career as early as possible, no matter how many resources you have, you can always prepare in advance in terms of interpersonal communication and personal life. If you prepare earlier, maybe you can provide the education in the families and prepare your children for future development and education. Making considerations in advance is very important, and sometimes maybe parents do not know what to do. And maybe some parents don't know what their children can do in the future, but no matter what they do in the future, they always need to handle many core skills, and preparing in advance can reduce the challenges. Second, parents can try to communicate with parents and teachers from different areas, especially for places with limited resources. And maybe they can get more support in terms of policy and resources. And that might help even for underdeveloped areas. Employment is very regional, and occupational education is always localized, and it is related to local industries. So we can set up more pioneering projects and make more attempts in occupational schools and special schools. Thank you, Mr. Xu. This is the end of the inclusive education system. Thank you all. We have talked about the definition, current status of inclusive education, and the future development for children with special needs. I believe that if we make efforts together, if we can support people with special need, eventually we will create an inclusive and loving environment for education, give full play to the potential of every child, and help them realize their dream. In the end, we thank all the guest speakers and audience who come to this panel. We hope that you can keep following our panel, and the next panel will be Children's Education Forum. Thank you for your very interesting presentation. And many comments are requiring to see a replay of this video, so I believe that they have got many insights. This is the end of today's panel. The next panel will be Children's Education Panel and Mental Health Education Panel. We will meet you again tomorrow. Thank you very much.
好。